Chantal, have you started the stream? So give me 1 second, folks. I'm going to put on our welcome screen. Bear with me 2 seconds. Okay, so here's our welcome screen for all the folks that are coming in. This is our YouTube stream of the week. We stream one of our favorite setups every week. And I just want to make sure that our stream is going, and then I'll say welcome and we'll get right back to business. Okay. Okay, we're cooking, everyone. So welcome everyone to the Pro Trade Room Plus, or welcome everyone to Netflix earnings. We're actually in GoToWebinar today. My name is Lee Goldstein, Trading Director for 10-Minute Trades. Please remember all the trades we discuss for educational purposes, so please trade carefully. I'm not a financial advisor. Trade smart. Thanks, everybody. And we are back ready to go for Netflix earnings. So let's start first off by welcoming everybody, and thank you everyone for joining us on GoToWebinar, and all of our challengers, thanks for watching. So we have a clock also that we like to use. This clock you can download. Again, when we get into our trade room, this clock is free. It's called Topmost Clock, and you can download it from our trade room. And it's a great little tool because I know what time it is. I know when I have to stop talking, when we have to get dead serious. So let's look at a couple of Netflix setups. We looked at last month. We'll show it again for all our new folks that have just gotten here. So Netflix last quarter was a nice solid trade, very close to 4 p.m. Our orders went on the chart. And then very shortly after that, it was only about 14 seconds later, Netflix earnings came out, the price burst. And you can see the price went up, and Netflix had a nice earnings event. So that was last quarter. And last quarter, the earnings went on the screen 13 seconds. Our orders went up. The earnings came out 16:00:13. Obviously, our orders had to go on the screen before that. If we look at October 18th, Netflix earnings on the chart, very similar time, 16:00 and about 5, 6, 7 seconds. And sometimes, okay, that time it was a very quick fill also. Netflix had a very quick fill. Let's look at that one more time. That was October 18th. Orders are on the chart. Price shoots up. Bingo. And let's look at another. I should have another quarter. So we looked at January 19th. We looked at October 18th. Let's look at July 19th. Orders are on the chart a few seconds after 4 p.m. And again, that way, I moved my chart by accident, and you didn't see the actual burst in the NQ, but it did burst up and went through all our orders. That was me. I mean, sometimes in the excitement of everything, I'll move my chart by accident. That's what happened there. That's why the price kind of disappeared. But it did continue moving up. You just couldn't see it until we moved them back. And you could see the price on the stock itself was exploding pretty intensely as well. So we need some sort of a trade setup in order to take advantage of this. So our software installs into NinjaTrader, and it becomes a strategy that installs inside of NinjaTrader, okay? And we have a setup for Netflix. And we right click on the chart, click on JOBB version 10. We're going to use the breakout trade setup. When you double click the name of the software, it'll show up under configured. I actually have a Netflix template that I'll modify. So I'm just going to load a template, scroll over to Netflix. And Netflix breakout 4/18/23, that's very recent, so I'm going to load that in. And here's how I'm going to trade Netflix today. Okay, we are going to use a breakout trade, and I'm going to activate my orders at 16:00:07. I'm using a 60-tick bracket. And I'm going to trade 3 contracts today. And I've got orders of targets of 21, 39, and 100. And I recommend that everybody use different order sizes, targets, I mean. Targets are not in stone, if you follow me. Targets are a range. Everyone should not use the same targets. You shouldn't use the exact targets I'm using. Scatter them around. You can use a range of targets, anywhere from 15, as little as 15 ticks on your first target. And you could probably go up to 130 or 140 ticks. We've seen significantly large moves from Netflix earnings. We do use a very large bracket. The large bracket, the idea is we want to stay on the right side of the event. So the idea is we don't want to whipsaw before the news comes out to pull us into the market on the wrong side. Because sometimes, we might have to wait 30 seconds or longer for the earnings to come out after our orders go on the chart. So we're going to use a setup called the breakout trade. I'm going to activate my orders at 16:00:07. I'm using a bracket of 60. And I've got orders ranging between, let's say, 18 ticks and 125. Our stop is 65 ticks. And then the only other thing that I occasionally do when I trade Netflix is we have a feature in our software. So there's a lot of potential for profit. So if Netflix should move 80 ticks or so, or 90 or 100 ticks, and then change direction, you don't want to have a losing trade when you have an opportunity to make that many ticks. But don't forget, we have a bracket, so we've got to get through our 60-tick bracket. But if the market should move after the bracket is filled, another 50 or 60 ticks, I can do something like this. If the market should hit my second target, which is only 39 ticks away, I could move my stop to break even plus 10 ticks. So should the market go further than my targets, but not as far as my third target, I can have the software automatically move my stop to safety, so that if the reversal should take place after a good solid move in our direction, I'll protect part of my profit from a complete reversal and a stop out. Because remember, we're using a big stop. You wouldn't want to have a target get hit of 39 ticks and 21 ticks and it still be a possible loser because it turned around and hit a 65 tick stop. So I am actually automatically protecting some of my profit. Target 2 stop move. It hits my second target. My stop's going to go to break even plus 10. That's the only automatic thing I'm going to do with the next Netflix trade. I've got a little label that says Netflix. When you enable a trade in NinjaTrader using software, it'll show up in the control panel. So let me show you what I mean. That's my whole setup. We're trading the NQ623. That's what's in the input series. You choose the account you're trading. Right now, for a moment, I'm going to leave my account on simulation because I want to look at the size of my brackets. If I set the time to 0 on the activation time, and then I enable my trade like so, there's my brackets. So I can just adjust my charts, the thickness of my brackets. I don't want them real tight like that, all scrunched up, because then I can't trade. And I don't want them so big I can't see them, right? I want them just manageable. So if I should have to move my order while we're waiting for Netflix, I could, or I could press the adjust button also. Okay. So that's the idea behind wanting to look at the width of my orders. What we should see happen is the market usually is pretty volatile on the close. That's one of the challenges of Netflix. The market might be pretty volatile. So once again, another thing that setting your time to 0 and enabling your trade in simulation, it allows you to see how volatile the current market is. And right now, it's not out of control. It's not getting anywhere near our targets, our orders. Now, our orders are big and they're far away, but see how it is challenging those orders? So there is volatility in the market, but it's not out of control. We have had instances in the past where it was so volatile. I remember it was probably about a year and a half ago. The NQ market was so volatile, it wasn't moving in ticks. Normally when the NQ market moves, it moves 13, 180, 0.25, 0.50, 0.75. That's a tick, like 0.50, 0.75. It moves in ticks. It can move fast in ticks, but it was so volatile. Some of the trades we were attempting to do is less than 2 years ago. It was fairly recent, not that long ago. We couldn't trade. The market was moving in chunks of points, and you just couldn't put a safe bracket on, because think about it. If your bracket has to be so big that there's no profit left, then you don't have a trade. So we have to try and balance the size of the bracket with available profit and the ability to get some of that profit. So once again, I do want to thank everybody that's watching us on YouTube. With all the people out there watching us, how about a couple of you hit that like button for us? Let us know you like what we're doing. We are streaming live. John, I see you over there. We're streaming live. Hit that like button for us. Hit the notification bell so you know the next time we're streaming. Our YouTube stream of the week is always free, and we really appreciate it. So breakout trade, 16:00:07 is our activation time. We got a 60 tick bracket, 3 positions. You can trade 2 if you want. Okay. So the bracket is a concept that's defined in our software. All right, we're going to bracket the current price. That's what it means. We're going to put a bracket above the current price and below the current price. That's what we mean by a bracket. Show you a picture of a bracket. Well, look, you saw my bracket. You saw my brackets. But this is what a bracket looks like. You got a bracket here. You got an order. Let's say we got an order here. We got an order here. This constitutes a bracket above and below the current price, which is here. So that's the bracket. And then that space in between the actual X, which is the order, and that current price candle, the space is the number of ticks. We have a 60 tick bracket, so that determines how wide in ticks that order is. We are 60 ticks each side. 60 ticks each side, believe it or not. 160007, 60 tick bracket. If we were 30 each side, we would call it a 30 tick bracket. And I've got targets ranging from 21 up to 100 ticks. Our stop is 65 ticks. NQ is $5 a tick. I'm moving my stop to break even plus 10 if my second target gets hit using the target 2 stop move feature. I'm checking my time is now set to normal. And I'm going to put my charts on live. Okay. I have a label on this trade, which is not that necessary, but when you enable a trade with NinjaTrader, when you enable it, I shouldn't say when you enable it, when you okay it and apply it is what I meant to say. So we put our settings into the software. When you're done putting your settings into the software, you click the apply button and the OK button. That places the order in the NinjaTrader control panel, this little section here of the platform, and it allows you to turn the trade on by clicking the enabled button. That's when the brackets show up after the time has passed that you want those brackets to appear. So we're asking the brackets to show up, the orders, 7 seconds after 4 p.m. So we also want to make sure that our computer is in sync. We did that before, we'll do it again. We'll check the sync on our computer by going into the website. Time is okay, and that checks to see if my computer is in sync. And I want my computer to be in sync because I do expect that Netflix is going to release their earnings real close to 4 p.m. The NQ is $5 per tick. $5 per tick. So every time it ticks, it's $5 a tick. Okay. So the two big things we're watching, Netflix stock price on the right, and I'm also watching Netflix stock price on the left. I almost find it distracting these days to use the Thinkorswim chart. It doesn't matter whether I use Thinkorswim or the Netflix chart. I mean, the TOS chart is what I mean. The NinjaTrader chart is what I mean. I've got so many charts that I'm looking at. I'm just trying to simplify my brain today. I don't need this little mini chart in addition to my NinjaTrader chart. So today I'm just going to not use it. I'm also listening to a stream of news from a website that also has calendars that we use, financialjuice.com. They have a pro version, and they have a stream that actually speaks in your headset if you want to wear a headset. And I'm always wearing a mic and a headset, so I have that audio of them announcing news events in my earpiece, which is a great help. Okay. So once again, I do want to thank all the challengers for being here, all our regular members. We've got 10 minutes until these earnings come out. So let me show you one more. Let me show you a real old Netflix trade. This goes back to like 2019. Look how different our charts looked in 2019. 2019, I was trading Netflix with a 210 tick chart. So that was an interesting setup that we used. And we were using all these different indicators. This was a year before the pandemic started also. I think the pandemic was official March 20th, 2020, somewhere around there. March 2020. This was a year before that, April, and this was a Netflix trade. Netflix trade room way back in April. Our setup was completely different, Nothing like what we're doing now. I'm trying to see if I can tell what the setup was. It's a little bit hard to see. My targets were only 20 and 30. And I wish I could see the bracket. I can't see the bracket on this up. I can't believe it was 10-6. I find that hard to believe. You could see that we were using these zones, which are still built into the software. And I don't know if this was a winning trade or a losing trade. Let's see what happens. I just picked it randomly out of my file. It was 2019. And we were not automating our entry. I was trading with a manual entry using buttons because our research was not as detailed. We didn't know at that time that we could count on Netflix releasing their earnings so close to 4 p.m. And I could see that I wasn't sure even when to put the orders on, because I could see that it looks to me like we've missed the Netflix trade in this video. So it's going back to April. Just interesting to look at the charts. Some of the same tools we used, but not all of them. But that's what it looked like in 2019. So we have quite a few different charts these days, different tools. Now, when I enable my trade, that's what turns on our software, and it turns on the fact that our orders are going to show up 7 seconds after 4 p.m., 1600 hours. So we've got 7.5 minutes to go. Anybody have any questions? And we have a ton of people. Let me look at the YouTube. We're not doing bullish. So people always ask, are you doing bullish or bearish? We're doing neither. What we're looking for is to get pulled into the market whichever way the market moves after the earnings come out, okay? That's the key. So Ray God is asking, how can you download our software if you have a Thinkorswim account? You need to use NinjaTrader to download our software. We're just watching Thinkorswim. You need to open a NinjaTrader brokerage account and do some of your trading through NinjaTrader, because our software is a software package that works with NinjaTrader, okay? And I think that over the years, I've tried very much to try and keep our charts as simple as possible. Don't forget that, especially on our trading hour template, we want to be set to default 24/7 so that we see the stock price after 4 p.m., after market hours. Official market hours are closed. And then on the left side, it's just as if we're using a totally normal event trade with the NQ, no different. I would guess also that you could expect to see an ES move with Netflix. The NQ is probably not the only instrument that's going to have a tradable move on powerful tech stock earnings. So I think I've answered all the questions up on YouTube. But so don't get confused by the bracket. One of the things that people do often get confused over the years, as we have been doing this for so long, it's hard in the beginning, the first time you've ever seen a bracket-based trade. People are always thinking, well, are you bullish or are you bearish? But we are neither. We're putting orders above and below the current price on the chart. And the idea is we want Netflix to move the NQ in a way that pulls us into the market and then goes through our targets. That's the goal. And, you know, a lot of times people will say things like, well, okay, the earnings were good. How come the price went down? So there have been many trades where the earnings will come out, and earnings are complicated when you use the word good and bad. It's not just one thing that makes up an earnings trade, and it's not just one result that means good or bad. There's a collection of different information. And that's also why sometimes trading earnings can be tricky. You could trade, sometimes we'll trade some of the slower moves in some of our morning trade rooms. A company like a Boeing or a UPS, which we're starting to look at some of those. Maybe their guidance is good. In other words, maybe their future predictions for how business is going to be is good, but maybe their revenue for the last quarter was bad. So that would make for a complicated earnings release, because they might be saying good things about what they expect next quarter, but last quarter might have had lower revenues. So those are different things that the companies are looking at when they release their earnings. And those different pieces of information are what causes the price fluctuations in the stock as well as in the instrument that we're trading. So the NQ moves because Netflix also has a weight in the NASDAQ. What's the word I'm looking for? Index, right? You have the S&P index, you've got the Dow index, got a whole bunch of indexes, and different stocks have different weightings in the indexes. A company like Apple, for instance, is heavily weighted in the NASDAQ, but Apple also has weight in the S&P. So you'll notice on an Apple trade, the ES can often move very strongly as well. And then some of the other type stocks, like a Target or a McDonald's, they're not going to really move the NASDAQ in general because they are not NASDAQ-oriented stocks and they don't have weighting in those stocks. Weight meaning what percentage of that company makes up that index, the weight. So I guess you could say Netflix is a fat NQ stock, right? It's a fat NQ stock because it moves the NQ a lot. So it's a heavyweight in the NQ. That's what I would say about Netflix. So we're getting close. We're a minute and a half away from the earnings. I don't have to do anything initially. My orders are going to show up on the chart. Now, it's always possible Netflix could release early and we could miss the event entirely, right? What if Netflix decides to release their earnings 3 seconds after 4 p.m.? Our orders aren't going on the chart until 7 seconds. So I would have to have my wits about me and cancel that trade. I can cancel that trade by unchecking the check mark or by unchecking one of the boxes. We don't anticipate that because it's never happened. But anything can happen. Okay, so we've got about 37 seconds until our orders show up on the chart. And if Netflix did release their orders early, their earnings early, we would attempt to cancel the trade because it's that initial move that we're looking to trade. Okay, so that's the market closing. The bell has rung. So Netflix, they should release their earnings any second now. Now they may, this is tough. If it just dribbles, I will not have a trade. This is very long for Netflix not to release. It's very difficult to tell. They may have released and we may have missed this move, folks. We may have missed this move. We've missed it. I have to cancel this trade because I missed the move. It was dribbling down. It did not explode in an explosion. And if that happens, we missed the trade. So it doesn't mean that we did something terribly wrong. It means we didn't get an explosion in price. Even though there was a lot of movement, I was not seeing, we normally see a huge burst. We normally see a huge burst. CNBC is minutes behind. That's TV. I'm listening to a Squawk Box. Their earnings are out. We missed it the first time ever that we missed the Netflix earnings trade. You can tell they've released them. Look at the stock price. It's not a doubt. CNBC takes minutes before they get the data. That's why we don't use CNBC. It is a shame. The NQ is probably going to go test the low. We don't normally do a discretionary trade. It's not how I trade Netflix. Turning off my orders. We missed it. It is just the way it is. It's the way it is. So I don't know if I just was moving my orders too much today. It's possible that I just moved my orders too much. It's one of those things where I was expecting a bigger explosion. David says he got filled and got a nice profit trading 2 contracts. So, let's take a look at the video and see if maybe I was just adjusting my orders too much and I didn't get the kind of burst that I was expecting. That's for sure. Now, look, when I say I was expecting a burst, let me show you what I'm talking about. Let me show you what I mean. So if we look at, a recent Netflix, now I never really got that kind of a burst that I was looking for. So I didn't get pulled into the market. And I think that what happened today was it kept pushing down, but it didn't look like the stock earnings were out yet. And so I kept adjusting my orders with the adjust button. And I think I just simply adjusted my way out of the trade. But again, because it didn't explode the way that I was expecting, I didn't get pulled into the market the way I wanted to get pulled in. So look, sometimes that's life. I'm not going to cry in a corner. We have weeks and weeks of earnings that we'll be working on. Let's take a look at the video and see exactly what took place. So here's a video of the event. Turn off, get everything out of the way. Okay, so see right about here, right about 5 seconds after, the stock exploded to the downside. But if you'll notice, watch at 4 p.m. 20 seconds here. I'm sorry, but I can't get my video closer in time. It just won't work. So we just have to wait. You'll notice in about 20 seconds, what's going to happen is the stock price is going to burst down. It's going to burst down. Now, it doesn't mean it's immediately that the stock, that the earnings already were out. That's not what that necessarily means. A lot of times there's just pre-market movement before the earnings are actually released. Now, my orders are going on the chart right about there. And you can see the stock is bouncing around. I'm truly not seeing a very active explosion in price that is doing anything to pull me into a trade. So, you know, I've changed my brackets a little bit. Now, I think probably right there is where the earnings took place. I think right there, right back, watch here. I think right about right at this moment here, coming up in a second or two. Watch, watch. Right there, I think that's where the earnings came out. And I was still adjusting because it wasn't a very big move. It was not a very big move, but you could see the stock was sitting on a giant red candle. And that is my opinion, where the earnings came out, right in that area. But again, it wasn't an explosive move to pull me in. So that's why I missed it. That's why I missed it. And look, it's going to happen. It'll happen again on another stock. It's like we said, sometimes things are not the way you expect. Sometimes they're not the way you expect. So that is what it is, folks. I missed it. I missed it. It was negative earnings at the moment. Negative earnings at the moment. And it is the way it is. So not going to, like I said, you all know me. If I miss something or if I don't get something perfect, hey, we just go on to the next event. So before we say goodbye, let's look at the next event. Let's look at our calendar. First of all, you still, just because I didn't make money today doesn't mean that you shouldn't get involved with us in the challenge. So folks, join the challenge with us. www, right? Let me show you the link. You want to join up with us and join the challenge because we've got Tesla tomorrow, right? Let me show you the possibility of Tesla. Give me 1 second just to pull up some data for you. So first off, www.crushearnings.com. You still have an opportunity to sign up for the challenge, and you still have an opportunity to do the VIP upgrade, which allows you to come into all the trade rooms for the next 4 to 6 weeks to do all the extra stocks that we're going to do in the VIP upgrade, okay? So don't forget, you could sign up for that as well. Let me show you the possibility of the way that Tesla moves so you could see how great Tesla has a possibility of being. So this was a recent Tesla event. Tesla also has a certain time that they like to release their earnings. We have a setup for them. And Tesla chopped around quite a bit that particular day. And you could see the stock is bursting up. Earnings are up, and Tesla's going to shoot up and go up to the upside. So that was a very nice, almost a $600 earnings trade on Tesla. Tesla definitely can move as much as the big stocks. It could move as much as an Apple. It could move as much as a Netflix. Now, what's interesting about Netflix, it just moved in an unusual way today. It wasn't quite the explosive move that would have pulled me in the market. But everyone, definitely join up with us, www.crushearnings.com. After you sign up, you get the opportunity to do the VIP upgrade and come into all the extra trade rooms with us, plus all the FANG stocks. It's really fun. Look, what we do is real in the room. If we don't get filled, you see that we don't get filled. If we make money, you see that we make money. It is real. And no matter what, when you're done with me, you're going to know how to trade earnings. Larry is saying, I made $300 on 2 contracts. I'm reading Larry's message. Fred, I made $43 on the micro NQ. That's like a $400 regular trade. And David says, hey, I made $830 trading 2 contracts. So just because I didn't fill, because I was expecting it to do it the way I was expecting, you're not me. You're learning the methods and you're taking the tools, and they will be tools you'll have for the rest of your life. Okay? So there you go. www.crushearnings.com. I hope that's right. Yes, www.crushearnings.com. Join up with us. Now, David is saying something interesting. I used to trade earnings, he's saying, using the options for the underlying and got hosed. This is a much better method. So, David, obviously, I totally agree that this is an awesome method. Wait till you see some of the slower methods. It all doesn't have to be giant, scary risk. Let me show everybody, because everybody's sticking around and so many people have stayed. Let me show you what earnings look like on a slower trade, because I was testing something this morning. So let me grab a quick, just to give you an idea that this is not the only way to trade earnings, and it's not scary. You could trade earnings in a much mellower way, believe it or not. So this morning, what was the stock company? I'll tell you in 1 second. I'll pull my file out. It was Goldman Sachs. Okay, so Goldman had earnings this morning, and look at how different it would be. First of all, we would be trading the YM. Okay, it was 7:15 this morning, and I had some orders on the chart, but I want to show you nothing happened until it got to almost 725. And then as we get closer and closer to 725, Goldman's going to release their earnings. But the point is, look how slow it is. I'm in a trade, the YM, it's only moving a tick or two at a time. It's not a big, explosive, gigantic move. You actually have time to move your brackets around. And actually in this trade, I was just practicing, folks, to see what the setup should be for some of the bank stocks. So here was the actual trade, was right here at 7:25 and 40 seconds. You notice the stock moved down, and even at 7 in the morning, we can get some good stock movement from the real stock charts. It was a short, and then you had time to move your stop to protective area if you wanted to, like I'm doing right there. And it was a very good opportunity for quite a lot of ticks trading the YM on Goldman Sachs. Much slower, much more mellow, a more manageable kind of trade. So the point is, there's a variety of different earnings trades that you can take. Different style. They're not all scary. They're not all explosive. And some of them you actually manage your way out of. So we're going to be in and out of our trade room. Remember, we've got the 5 FANG stocks that are taking place in GoToWebinar like we're doing today. And all the rest of our earnings are going to take place in our regular trade room. So there's so much information, so much education you're going to get. www.crushearnings.com. I would love to see you all register if you're not registered. And tomorrow, we have actually Tesla in our regular trade room. That is not a GoToWebinar. And Tesla moves just like a FANG stock. So the opportunity for profit is fabulous. All right. Any last questions? I don't see any other questions. And everybody have a good rest of your day. And I'll see everybody for our regular trade room. We'll be starting tomorrow at 10 o'clock for crude oil inventories. We've got the 20-year bond auction, beige book, and Tesla. So I'll see everybody tomorrow. Have a great day, folks. I'll see everyone tomorrow. Take care.